Well, thank you so much, Brigid Toole Grant, for being with us here today. I know we've had a few technical difficulties on our journey, but we can continue. I am really grateful that you're here so that we can have a little discussion about your art and your background and where you're planning to go from here. So let's start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about your artistic background, where you're from, where you went to school, where you grew up, that kind of thing.
I'm from Fredericton. I went to school here. My mother was from Montreal, so I was born in Montreal. She went home to her mother, so I was born in Montreal. In terms of my artistic interests, I was thinking about them, and they started really when I was about 9 years old. My father was the first faculty member to receive a sabbatical from UNB.
Okay.
And he went in just after the war. I was born in 1938, so I think I was 7, maybe going on 8. And we drove to British Columbia, and I was there for a year. And my mother, who had worked teaching chemistry all of my life up till then, and took the year off as well, and she took art courses in British Columbia, in Vancouver, from a fellow called David Shapiro.
Okay.
And I was very envious, and I was interested in what he was doing. I just looked him up again. I did meet him again when I was 19, and there was some correspondence with my parents in the intervening years. And he's he's on the net. He's dead now, but I found an article by his daughter, who's written a couple of novels. Anyway, it was in the New York Review of Books. But he was an artist, and he was left-wing in his thinking, as most of the people were that I studied under. Anyway, I think in the biography the quick one that you had written, you mentioned my learning from the Bobacks. I didn't learn woodcut printing from them. I learned it at the Art Students League before I met them.
Okay.
But I became interested in it because of Shapiro, who did woodcuts.
Okay.
And he did other kinds of work as well. But anyway, I would think my interest in art started then, but making it the focus of one's life was after I graduated from university, I think. I studied history and philosophy at UNB in the undergraduate.
Yes.
For an undergraduate degree. And I was really very interested in it, but I wasn't interested in being an academic. I think I could have been. I did well at the undergraduate level.
Yeah, you won quite a few awards, didn't you?
Well, I won others that I didn't list there in the undergraduate years. I think I was first in English in first year, so on. I don't even remember. But I was, why wouldn't I be with the background of my parents? I was fine at university. My worst mark was in chemistry, of course.
Ironic.
But that's when I got interested. And when I came home, I bugged my parents to have painting lessons or art lessons. And Lucy Jarvis, whom they knew, was a friend, as indeed Peggy Nichol-MacLeod was a friend too.
Right.
Lucy agreed to take me early. I think she liked kids 12 and older, and I was 10. So I started with her, and I won a scholarship at some point, I don't remember, before I was 13, probably 12, 13. And that's when I went to the Brantner summer courses at UNB, which were actually for adults, but he took me in. Okay. And then I continued later with Pinsky.
Okay.
So I was interested from very young, but I wasn't very practical. I just was interested.
Right. So you had quite an education when you were growing up at UNB there with the artists in residence that were very fortunate for all of us that they came through.
Well, of course, in the Depression, a lot of people came home, And Peggy Nicol had a connection because her husband was a Frederictonian.
Yes.
So I think they came at the beginning of the war, but it was, Lucy, of course, was around, I think, with the National Film Board in the Depression era. So I think that's why there were artists. The ones in St. John came home during the Depression.
Right, I see.
So on.
Okay.
So it was just chance. But Peggy Nicol lived in what is now the Ice House. It was in a different part of the campus then. It was sort of where the Science Library is now, behind the old Arts Building.
Right, yes.
And she lived there, and she would use our apartment, or the Mackenzie's apartment. The president lived in the east end of the old Arts Building, all 3 floors. We just had the middle floor on the west.
Okay.
But she would come in and use our bathroom to have a bath there, because she just was living in what amounted to a tent.
A tent, yes, exactly. Wow.
Yeah. So they were friends. But anyway, that's the beginning.
Yes. So, I mean, you're very intimately connected to UNB, not only through your parents, but by having lived there and experienced it at an era way before we are now in terms of the use of that building.
Oh, yes. The thing is, I think during the Depression, my father used to say, had it not been for the Beaverbrook scholarships, which paid for New Brunswickers to go to university, the university would have gone bankrupt.
Really?
And it had, I think, around 500 people, including janitors, staff, faculty, and students, until the end of the war, when there was a huge influx of students who were veterans.
Yes.
My mother used to teach, I think I put that in the biography, taught chemistry during the war and before. I don't know when she started, but she had to teach 4 sections of freshman labs when the people came back, because there was just this huge influx of students, and that's when the university began to grow.
Yes. Right.
So before that, the buildings were heated by wood, which was delivered by horse and sleigh. Nothing was paved. Church Street wasn't paved. I mean, it was a different era.
Yes.
Before the war.
For sure.
But, yeah. So
tell me a little bit about your relationship with Molly and Bruno Bobak.
Well, I was always in and out of the art center. So when Lucy left, I think Goodrich Roberts was there for a year.
Yes. And
I knew him, partly through my parents. It was a very small world. People, I knew the Dykmans, my parents knew the Campbells and the people in St. John, Miller, Britton, and so on. They used to go to parties. You could go by train from Fredericton to St. John. Anyway, it was a much smaller place. So I knew Goodrich Roberts, and I saw him later when I lived in Montreal for those 2 years.
Right.
But then when the Bobaks came, I got to know them, and I worked with Molly. I was trying to think when I was working in the art center, so it would be in the early 60s, and then I was there a little bit after that. Most of the 60s, I wasn't in Fredericton. I was in Montreal, or I was in New York,
or
I was in London.
Right.
The various schooling places. But I did work in the art center for several years. So I got to know them, and they were Anglophiles. They loved England. They'd been there in the war, and they went back periodically. Certainly Bruno did. And I had lived in England in 1953. So I knew it too, and I had relatives there. So we had that in common.
Okay.
And we became friends, and I worked with her on a TV program in St. John.
Okay.
Even then, she couldn't drive. Her eyes weren't good enough.
Okay.
So I would drive, and we would go on air live after the weatherman for half an hour. and I would be the pretend student, and she was the teacher.
Okay.
It was fun. I don't think it was ever recorded or anything. She was teaching drawing by showing squash and how the center of gravity was different from the core of the squash, and how you could get different ways of understanding it as you drew it. And as we left the studio, I assume drunken St. John said, "Oh, there are the squash ladies." Anyway, so I got to know her, and then eventually we taught together at St. Andrews.
Right.
She taught by herself for a few years, and then I joined her, and then I continued after she stopped.
Right. Right.
So and then I knew them. I mean, working with Bruno, he was always trying something new, a way of making what looked like etchings on arborite or some new shortcut, very ingenious.
Yes, he certainly was.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your printmaking. That's what we're featuring in this exhibition, Revelations. And they're very powerful.
Yeah, well, I think I was trying to think. I mean, I was interested in it from the time I met David Shapiro, so from childhood. And then I was certainly making them before I went to Montreal the first time, which is when I was 18. So I was making them. And what I liked about them was that was the sort of bluntness or directness of them, but also the fact that you were conveying real feelings or to some extent connections or ideas without observing a particular individual thing, without photographic observation, or because I was learning that too. I mean, I was learning drawing, so I've always liked it as a way of it's closer to philosophy than some of the other ways of making things.
Interesting.
The image, if it works, is supposed to sort of convey feeling in a very unapologetic, direct way, but not be an image of anything you could go and visit or put on a map. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, what are you working on now? You sent me an image of.
Well, what I work on is I've been doing painting and stuff that I do anyway.
Yeah.
But I have some odd bits of old doors and furniture, wooden stuff, and I really want to carve them and either print from them or not print them, just make the carving visible as it is in second growth.
Okay.
And is to some extent in that one I sent you. To get some feeling that is somewhere in the world of visual, because the world is visual, but also political, also feeling, sort of indignation or response to things.
Right.
And I've never worried about people misinterpreting what I do, because I think that's the luck of the draw.
Right.
If you're an artist.
Once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah. So I always I did do etching and a little lithograph when I was at the Art Students League.
Right.
But apart from the cumbersome nature of the stuff you need to do that kind of work.
Yes, printmaking is very process heavy, isn't it?
Well, you also have to, I mean, I have a Bruno Boback, I think it's called Swimming Lesson or something. It's him holding Annie, teaching her to swim as a baby. And it's a huge piece of paper. It's about 4 feet or 5 feet by, a meter or something. It's a big print. And it would have been done on a stone when he was in London.
Okay, yes.
At a lithographer's studio.
Right.
But to get a stone like that or access to it I like the idea of lithography because it's so direct. You just draw or manipulate the stone and then it's printed. I did etching, and I was very glad I didn't pursue that because I probably would have got very sick. We used to, use feathers to take the bubbles of the acid away from the surface of the metal.
Yep.
So and I've known printmakers who became very ill.
Yes.
Of my generation.
Yeah, without ventilation and the kind of...
No fan, no protection, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and woodcut is, even though I did use oil-based inks, is pretty direct, and you don't have any other solvents.
Yes. Yeah.
Paint thinner or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm wondering how you're faring through COVID-19.
Oh, well, I miss friends.
Yes.
But I've always been a bit of a loner, so being alone, I mean, my daughter's in the same house, so I'm not really alone, but I wouldn't say I forget about it because you have to be careful.
Yeah.
But I worry about the world a lot.
Yes, it certainly is an interesting place at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, not just the riots of recent days, but the indebtedness of most people and the loss of employment. I just worry what the world will be like.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
When we emerge, and it's interesting scientifically or environmentally, but not if you get ill.
No, definitely not.
But I mean, yes. So I mean, and I guess I am like many of us. I have a pension. I mean, I have an income. And I have a house, and I have a backyard, and lots of people don't have those things. No. So I worry about them.
Are you using this time to make art at all, or is it too busy right now with gardening season and that kind of thing?
Well, I've done a little bit. We've had a lot of practical things I've had to deal with, like fixing up the fence. I mean, we have things to do with the house. But I'm sure I will. I hope to get back to doing more things. Right. My studio is full of unfinished work, so I can go and work on that. Or, as I say, I'm really thinking about a couple of old chairs and a door to see, and I would like to get back to that. Once you get going, the process is quite pleasant, like any other kind of woodworking.
Yes.
But I hope so. I hope my health stands up to things and I can keep working.
Well, I certainly hope so too. Brigid, why don't you tell us a little bit about the two pieces that we're featuring in this exhibition? It's Out of the Blue and Lovers.
Yes. Well, I think Lovers was probably made in the early 60s. It might have been when I was working at the Art Center.
Okay.
And it's obvious what the meaning is. The Into the Blue was probably the 70s. Okay. Early 70s before the end of the Vietnam War. Okay. And it was in response to that, in the brutality and so on. That I've always been puzzled by the horrors of society when most of the people I meet are fine. I mean, you know, I'm not surrounded by monsters, but the society I live in does monstrous things. Yeah. And to try and say that without being too, you know, boring or solemn. So that's again, as I say, woodcut, it's a bit more philosophical. You can say something that reaches people in an intimate or emotional way, and is also saying a bit more. Yeah, yeah. It's something about the directness of the carving into the wood. Yes, and the simplicity, yes. Almost the crudeness. It's not. You're not showing off. Yeah, and you're not trying to make it. Yeah, you're not making it pretty. It's a basic statement. Yeah, but there is emotional content. I mean, people do respond to them. Yes. lots of people, because I made a series of small woodcuts originally just as Christmas cards for friends, and the Gallery 78's always had a few, and people really like them. So they do have an immediacy, I think, of ordinary understanding, which is sort of what one's aiming for.
Yes.
Without anyway. And the other question you didn't ask me was what drives me to create.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you didn't ask me that.
Okay, then I won't.
I think it's just another way to try and nail down one's understanding of the world. Okay.
Well, so why don't I ask you this? Where do you get your inspiration from?
I don't think I'm inspired. I think I'm either lazy or determined to if you like, get the sentence right or the understanding nailed down.
Okay.
I've never understood inspiration. I think it's probably a 19th century conceit.
Okay. So then how about your sort of work with human rights and your family's work, with sort of civic responsibility? How does that inform your work?
Well, I don't think I'm responsible, but I think I'm probably concerned. So I share the same concern. One of my ancestors was a Methodist preacher who went to Jamaica in about 1830 or something, and from Ireland.
Okay.
Anyway, he preached to mixed Afro-Jamaican and white Jamaican congregations and was tried for sedition by the British government.
Oh dear.
And he got off with the most rousing speech. So he wasn't. Then he immigrated to Canada and eventually settled in Montreal. But that's on my mother's side. So right. I think a feeling of social responsibility is probably a family sort of culture.
Yes, for sure.
But my mother was much better at it than I am, and very responsible. My father was perhaps more of a thinker or a dreamer, but he helped out. Yeah. So it is a family. I mean, my brother was Deputy Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. He went into public service in
right.
Brunswick.
Yeah. So it's
the same.
Yeah. In your family.
Tendency. I'm probably the least involved. I just want to say it.
Yes.
Not do it.
Yeah. You're the communicator.
Yeah. Well, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think when I studied philosophy, I wanted the same thing as I find when I do art. It's the same feeling of sort of nailing reality down somehow.
Right.
And people want you to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they like it when you do that. I've been a bit in hospital lately. I'm fine. I mean, don't worry about it. But I was reading books on debt, on economics. So I would talk to the nurses and the doctors, and they were all very interested and very concerned about the way the economy is working and the disadvantage of ordinary people. People want to think about those things.
Yes.
And we're distracted by entertainment. Art is really not, for me, entertainment. It's a way of having a conversation that means something to me and to the person that sees it as well.
Yes, it requires a bit of a deeper thinking process.
As deep as it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to be there. It's just that we're teased and distracted into other things.
Oh, that's great, Brigid. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating in this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.